This episode is sponsored by Unexpected Games. Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the Board Game Geek podcast. Wow, 50 episodes. Crazy. Where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and considering 50 episodes is a pretty cool milestone, I had to have a very special guest co-host on today. And I am super excited to be here today with not only one of the most influential modern board game designers, but just a genuine, awesome human being. Matt Leacock, the designer of Pandemic, Forbidden Island, and a bunch of other awesome games I'm sure many people listening have played before. How's everything going today, Matt?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me, Candice.
Yeah. It is great to talk to you. I had such a lovely time last year at that Essen pre-evening event where I got to hang out with you and your wife, and when I was kind of a lost puppy because Eric bailed on me.
That was a fun evening.
Yeah, well, what's new on your end? I mean, congrats again on your Kenner Spiel win.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been a really great summer, I gotta say. We're finishing up the summer. Really, the kids are going to be heading off to school soon, so we're going to be driving them up and down the coast. And I got some family in town, so we're playing a lot more games than usual. So that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Anything you're working on that you want to share?
Well, we're gliding down Flickering Stars, the dexterity game that I was showing off at Gen Con.
Yeah,
very
cool.
Excited about that because it's been 8 years in the making. So I can't tell you how happy I am that we're wrapping that up.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then getting some stuff ready for Spiel, so because that's coming up pretty soon too. And then there's, I think, as many as like 5 games that I'm trying to glide down for next year. I don't think they'll all hit, but it's a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure you're super busy. Yeah, when does Flickering Stars come out?
Well, I think they were talking about late this year. It might be early next year, so don't hold me to a date. But relatively soon, I'll say, all things considered.
Okay, cool. And no crowdfunding, just like straight...
No, it'll be direct to retail.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I got a chance to play Flickering Stars with Matt at Gen Con. And I actually, if anybody's curious to see how it works, there's a video on BGG's YouTube channel that I have in the Gen Con 2024 playlist where I'm getting an overview from Matt, and it's pretty fun. I really like how you can, like, how it has different modes, like the basic mode where you're flicking the ship and you're trying to pick up people and then get your ship back, but you're trying to prevent your opponent from doing that. And then the second, is it like, it's scenario based, right?
Yeah, there's 3 scenarios. The first 2 are like training scenarios. You can learn them in like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you really get to know how to do the dexterity elements of the game. And then the third one's a full-on strategy game, which you didn't even see. So that one's a little meatier if you like that kind of thing, which
cool.
I love.
I do too. I thought the second one with the area control, or the like where you're trying to get majority of the planets, that was really, really cool too.
Yeah, sort of like my first area control game, right?
Awesome. Well, today we are going to discuss our favorite board games that make us feel creative. And this is a topic that Matt came up with, which I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And there are a lot of different ways you could kind of go with it. So I'm kind of curious, like, what made you, without revealing any games, what made you come up with this topic?
I think people have all sorts of kinds of fun that they like. I mean, some people really like to be efficient. That's their thing. They love to be in spreadsheets and make everything balance out and try to min-max. Other people like to, there's even like a cleaning fun where you're like cleaning up a board, making everything, putting things away or organizing. I just like creative fun. So anything that makes me feel creative really lights up my brain.
Cool. Well, before we start talking about board games that make us feel creative, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Matt. So let's jump into fresh plays.
Yeah, the first thing I've been playing a lot of recently has been Heat, Pedal to the Metal. This came out
Nice.
pretty recently in 2022 by Asgar Harding Granerud and Daniel Skjeld Peterson. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too much, or Pedersen. It's out of Days of Wonder and plays 1 to 6 players. So I like this first and foremost because it handles a lot of players, and if you have an expansion, I think it even goes up to like 7 or 8 players.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm always looking for games that can handle more people, and this one really excels. I think it's my favorite race game ever, and it really makes you feel like you really have to push yourself to the limits. It's fundamentally a risk mitigation game, and if you're not risking almost everything, you're not going to win the race. But if you take it too far, you're going to spin out, and then you might you might not recover from it. So yeah, I love this one.
And what makes it is it that risk of having those what is it, the heat cards, I guess. Is it that makes this like stand out to you as
Well, I think it's there's the risk mitigation, but you really can be clever in how you manipulate your hand. It's not really a deck building game, but it has a bit of a feel for that. You draw 7 cards in your hand. You try to make the best use of them. You know, can you be? There's a little bit of creativity in this. Like how can you do the best you can with what you've got in your hand, and then how can you burn through the rest of your cards so that you cycle at just the right time and prepare for that corner that's coming up? Do you hold some low numbered cards, or do you start hoarding the big numbered cards because the straightaway is approaching? So you can be really. It doesn't look like a very strategic game, but it's pretty thinky if you get good at it.
Cool. How many of the different maps have you tried?
I played all the 4 in the basic box. I might have played one of the other expansion maps at a con. I'm not sure, but I think I played it like 6 or 8 times.
Awesome. Heat Pedal to the Metal. Well, I have just very, very recently finally played for the first time Pagan, Fate of Roanoke. This is a game that was originally released in 2022, and I'm going to try not to butcher these names. It's designed by Kasper Christiansen and Kare Stargard. It was originally published by Wormgold GmbH in Germany, and then Capstone brought it to the US and released it at Gen Con in 2024. And I have had my eyes on this game since 2022, since I first heard about it. It's a 2-player asymmetric expandable deduction card game. And I will say I received a review copy of this. Oddly enough, I left for Gen Con the weekend before, and it arrived at my house the day I was leaving for Indy. Yeah. So I was, and I've been looking forward to playing it so long. But anyways, I finally got to play it. In this game, you have a witch versus a witch hunter, and you both have your own decks of cards. The decks are asymmetric, so the witch has like cards that are brews, that are familiars, enchantments, and charms, whereas the witch hunter has locations, allies, investigations, and events. And there are going to be these 9 villagers on this board, or multiple boards actually, in between both players. So they're split into 3 factions, and at the beginning of the game, the witch is going to take a card from this suspect deck, which is one of these 9 villagers. So that's the true witch.
The true witch.
Yeah. Okay. And then the hunter is trying to figure out which one it is by doing all sorts of things to deduce. And meanwhile, the witch is trying to secretly get a bunch of favor tokens on the true witch and then perform a ritual to win the game. So it's really, really cool. It's the flow of the game is pretty straightforward. Like you just alternate taking turns. There's an upkeep phase where you take back. It's almost like a slight worker placement vibe to it too, because each player has 3 pawns, action pawns, and what you do is when it's your turn, first you take all your pawns back from, they could be on the villager cards in the middle. They might be on your personal player board. If you're the hunter can actually, when they add locations to their player board, those are new action spaces. So they can put a pawn on one of those to activate that ability. But you get them back and then you just pretty much take your actions. But meanwhile, your opponent's pawns are still out on different cards that might impact you. And you do have an action where you can like remove one if you absolutely need to like use that particular, I guess it's the main action when you're interacting with the villagers is called visit a villager. And
are you trying to gain information about them? Is that sort of what's going on?
Yep. So it, as the witch, and I played the witch in my first game. As the witch, if I go to visit someone, the first thing I'm going to do is, if there's an investigation card, which the hunter can play on different villagers that might give them a bonus or hinder me in some way. And then each of the villager cards will give you a number of tokens that you need to distribute to other villagers. So this is how, if you're the witch, I'm going to be putting these little secrets on the different villagers. If you're the hunter, you're going to be putting clues instead. And once you have 3 clues on a villager and you go to visit that villager, you can convert it to, in my case, secrets convert to favors, which I need to like do the spell, the ritual that'll win me the game. But the hunter puts on clues that turn to evidence, which they use to exonerate villagers to deduce which one is the true witch. So it's a lot of really cool card play. The witch can have brews on the player board. You can have room for up to 3 brews. And that's another place you can place these secret tokens. And once you have enough secret tokens on them, you're able to consume that brew, get a cool ability, then you get rid of that card. I think you get rid of it at least after you consume it. I'm pretty sure. I hope so. That's how I played it. But then you also have familiars, and then the witch has this special familiar pawn. So if they use that to take an action, they also can activate one of their familiar abilities. And then there's also enchantments, which the witch can play that give them some cool ability or kind of hurts the hunter. And the hunter has an action where they could try to like remove these, and you know, there's a lot of back and forth, but ultimately it is really, really cool. I can't wait to play the hunter side too, but as the witch, I'm trying to throw the hunter off. It was my friend Brandon. I'm trying to throw him off, you know? So I went and I started loading up tokens on some villager, and he took the bait. So he's, starts trying to like fight against that. And meanwhile, I'm like, okay, I need to be subtle about getting some secrets on the true witch so I can like work towards winning. And then he ended up exonerating villagers. I don't get to see which cards he draws. So now he's got data throughout the game. He did it 3 times. He's got data on 3 villagers. And I'm like, which ones? Because I could be bluffing, and he knows like, oh, that's definitely not the witch, you know? So there's like some really, really cool tension. I loved it. I really did.
I tell.
Yeah, I'm into like 2-player card dueling games and asymmetrical gameplay in general. And yeah, I think it's like the rule book is fantastic. There are player aid cards, and all your actions are on your individual player board. Really good art. Some of the icons are a bit tiny, but you kind of get used to it after one game. And they're also indicated on the player aid for you. So yeah, I can't wait for more expansions for this, because you can do deck building with it and everything. But it was super, super cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is Pagan, Fate of Roanoke. Are you into any like the 2-player card dueling games?
I don't know if I've played any 2-player card building games. But I mean, you did mention 2-player games that are asymmetrical, and that leads to my fresh play number 2.
Ooh, go on.
I don't know if people would peg me for someone who likes this kind of game, but I can't get enough of this. Quartermaster General East Front. I don't know if you've played this.
Oh, I've never played any of the Quartermaster
So
General
I'm a big
games.
fan of the Quartermaster General base game, which is 6 players. I play that at a lot of cons I go to.
Awesome.
But the East Front's a 2-player game. It came out in 2023, designed by Ian Brody, who's done all of the games. Comes from Ares, and like I said, it's a 2-player game. I've been playing this with my father quite a bit. We played 2 games here this past week, and I just love it. It's a little, I mean, it's pretty thinky. It's deeper than any other ones. This is a World War II reenactment, just on the East Front, Germany versus the Soviets, and it's pretty simple rules. Honestly, it's card driven. You have 2 moves per turn and 2 actions. The moves can be as simple as just moving an armor forward, an armor division, and little wooden pieces. There's very few pieces in the set, so it looks like a Euro game, a card-driven Euro game. But there's a lot of depth to the tactics and strategy, and I think you can play it in like 90 to 120 minutes. It typically takes us like 3 or 4 hours.
You're having a good time. You're really enjoying it.
We're a little slow at it, but yeah, I think I played this like probably about a half dozen times now, maybe more, and can't get enough of it.
Oh, that's so awesome. So I didn't even know there was a 2-player only Quartermaster General game.
Yeah, no, so I've been playing this for about a year, and I think they just announced there's going to be a South Front and then a West Front. I think both are coming out next year, and from what I saw, you can combine them for like up to a 5-player experience, which sounds like mind blowing. So I'm gonna have to keep my eyes out for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I met someone at GMT's Weekend at the Warehouse. I guess I met him like 2 years ago, and he was saying it's like one of his favorite games is I think the main Quartermaster General World War II. Mm-hmm. And I was so intrigued by it. Then I heard that it's teams when you play with 6 players?
It's if you play it correct. So the only way to play that game is 6 players, 3-on-3. And if you know what you're doing, you can play it in an hour. And it has such tension and energy, and you're working off your fellow players. And when people get to know the game, it's really something else. So it's become kind of a tradition. So I played that a couple times a year.
That's so cool. And now you're inspiring me to play it finally, because I've been wanting to play it. I bought the 1914 World War I version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at some point I bought an expansion for the World War II main game because it was out of print, and I keep forgetting to check if the base game is still available. But yeah. I really want to play it. And the fact that there's a 2-player one too, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, the second edition of the base game came out recently. I want to pick it up. I like it so much. I'm gonna buy it a second time. Just to get the second set.
Awesome. So that's Quartermaster General Eastern Front?
East Front.
East Front. There we go. Cool. Well, I'm going to pivot off of that and tell you about a game that took me a long time to play. That's probably longer than most people. This is a game called Call of Kilforth, and it came out in 2023. It's designed by Tristan Hall. It's from Hall or Nothing Productions. Plays 1 of 4 players, and this is a fantasy adventure game. It is a sequel and standalone expansion to the original one's called Gloom of Kilforth. Then there's Shadows of Kilforth, and this is the latest one. And I haven't played any of the other ones yet, but they share the same DNA and mechanisms. Like this one added some new stuff, but I don't really have a basis for comparison otherwise. But you can play this solo, co-op, or competitively. Okay. And so I always envisioned I was going to play it solo because a lot of people, like lots of solo gamers, like love this. But my partner Matt wanted to play with me because he likes adventure games, and it's this one's got like a piratey vibe to it too. So we played it together, and we played it twice now. And each time we play it over multiple days.
Oh, wow. It's pretty involved then.
Yeah. I feel like you can play it in less than 2 hours if you play solo. But with 2 players, we're like thinking, we're talking.
Discussing, yeah.
Yeah. So it always takes us longer than probably it takes most people, but we have a good time. Like it's a good experience. And I guess the hook with this game is it's card based. So your map is going to be like randomly placed cards in a 5x5 grid, and in the center of the map there's like a city, a special location, and you're moving around. Like you have your own character, you'll pick a race and a class, and you're moving around to different locations trying to like complete your saga. So you pick a saga at the beginning of the game too, and it's usually 4 chapters, and then you have a finale, and after that you fight an ancient, like a big baddie.
Kind of a boss.
Yeah. But one of the things that's really cool, this one has ships too. So you have like 4 different faction ship tokens that are on the board, and you are loyal. You have to, sometimes your class will tell you who you're loyal to at the start of the game. The Blue Drakes or the Sea Dogs. And there are different events and stuff that'll be like, oh, Sea Dogs get to do this and Blue Drakes don't. And, so it's kind of fun deciding if you want to switch sometimes. And we have like kind of an ongoing joke with the Sea Dogs, because we're so loyal to them. Like bad stuff will happen, but we're like, no, the next time it's going to be good. So we stick with it, and then we get bit in the butt again. But you're basically moving around. You're moving your character around on a standee around this map. And then you're revealing an encounter card, because each of these locations are 4 different types. You have ocean locations, mountain, plains, and forest. And so I move to a location, and if there's no encounter card there, I draw one. This can be like a place. This could be a quest. This could be a stranger, or it could be an enemy or an event. And one of the cool things is you do skill checks by rolling dice, but there is a way in this game that you can do a diceless version.
Okay.
But we like rolling dice, and it's just it gives us some good laughs and cries, So you're doing skill tests, because each hero has different attributes, and you can get more cards and items that give you bonus dice that you'll roll. And one of the cool things is when you overcome one of these encounters, let's say I meet a stranger and I test influence on this stranger. If I'm successful, I can either take that stranger into my hand, because maybe I need it because it's a keyword for my saga that I'm trying to complete, or it gives me some loot, and it also can let me draw a card from one of the rewards decks. And that is a rumor. So it goes into your hand, these rewards, or it could be like an ally, a spell, but it's a rumor. And I really like that mechanism, because it's like, oh, this stranger just told me about this crazy sword, but I need to now go to, across the way to that ocean to discover it, and then take the discover action.
Okay,
so
it's kind of puzzly then.
Yeah. But you're ultimately, like, your saga, each chapter of your saga, you're usually trying to find cards of certain keywords, and you'll be building out some cards in your tableau and like leveling up your character a bit. And it's really good. Like it's challenging. You can meet up with, if you're playing co-op, you can meet up together and team up to battle enemies. And oh my gosh, I guess one important thing I should mention is there's you're playing through a series of days, and you have 25 days to get through this game. And each night, meaning we've run out of action points for our turn and we've both passed and we're making camp, you draw a night card. Okay. And the night card is going to tell you some area, some location has fallen to gloom, and you have to flip that location card over. Now it's like you don't want to end your turn on that, or you'll lose health. And there might be some other impacts, but like as you play,
As the world gets smaller and smaller and more dangerous, is that the idea?
More and more dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. More and more dangerous, because more spaces flip to gloom. And then that night card will also sometimes be weather that'll impact you for however the next few turns till you draw another weather card. And just different events. Like maybe sometimes it spawns an enemy somewhere.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really cool. The ancients have abilities and plot cards that might end up on the board. And if you don't take care of the plot cards, the ancient's going to be beefed up. Like it buffs them up a little bit.
Got
But
it.
it's really, really cool. I think especially it would be so much snappier solo. Like I feel like I've seen videos where people play the solo in an hour and a half.
Okay.
But
And does it come with multiple quests then in the box, or?
so you have like a bunch of different saga options. You have a bunch of different races and classes, so you can mix and match. And I bought the there's a playmat that I think is like out of stock, but I found one at some online store in the UK and paid a decent amount to get it. But it's huge. It's like this huge neoprene mat. Beautiful, like it really like amplifies the mood and everything. And then the art on the cards is fantastic. Everything at All or Nothing is really, really cool. So that is something I've been into, like adventure games lately, and I'm glad that we finally tried this. And it's something, again, that my partner Matt, who's not like a big gamer like us, like he had asked to play it again. He's like, when are we going to play it again? Like,
yeah, that's
it's
great.
like, yeah.
A similar experience with my wife with Seventh Continent. We played that, and I think we put like 40 hours into that or something.
That's awesome. Have you tried Seventh Citadel?
No, I haven't. No, I just played the first one.
I'm gonna play that at some point in the near future.
Great.
And I just heard a bit about it. I've been like watching videos on that, and I have Seventh Continent. I just have never tried it. But at this point, I'm gonna start with Citadel and see how that goes. I know they're a bit different, but that's so cool.
We had a good time with that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that is Call of Kilforth. And now a word from our sponsor. When offered a lucrative job, a lone bounty hunter begins a journey that will put his skills to the test and redefine his world. Unexpected Games is thrilled to release The Mandalorian Adventures, on sale now. This cooperative game of daring missions allows you to take control of the Mandalorian and 7 of his most recognizable allies, each with unique skills and playstyles. Relive some of the most iconic moments from Season 1 of the Disney Plus series as you work together with up to 3 friends to overcome dangerous challenges. Clever card play will be required to traverse distinct maps, deal devastating blows to enemies, gather valuable intel, and plan your next moves. But be careful, drawing the attention of your foes may trigger even greater perils. Each game rewards you with tantalizing new content that enhances your game, including a hidden motives mode that will make you wary of your once trusted teammates. Secure your copy of The Mandalorian Adventures and jump straight into the action today. All right, now it's time to talk about board games that make us feel creative. I'm assuming, well, I'm not going to assume. Was it hard? Was it hard for you to come up with the games on your list, or were you just like, I know these games?
It wasn't hard. I think I wanted to cover a few different types of creativity. Like I didn't want it to everything be in one bucket. Not too hard.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because when you mentioned it to me, I was like, oh, does it make me feel creative? Like after I play it, I want to like make something or design a game, and then I was like, oh, or do I feel creative while I'm doing it?
Yeah, that's very much what I was thinking.
Okay.
I feel like I said, some of it's creative problem solving. Other times it's other types of creativity. But yeah, I can just talk about it as we jump in, I suppose.
Cool. Well, let's start with are your games in any particular order?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got so I guess my number 5 in no particular order.
Okay.
I guess it's sort of a soft entry, because it's such a simple game. We've been playing this with the family. Poetry for Neanderthals. From 2020. This
nice.
is Elon Lee's. Yeah, have you played this? From Exploding Kittens.
Yes.
Yeah, plays 4 to 12 players. So another game that plays a lot of people. This has been fun to play with my parents and my kids because everybody's at the house right now. You can play it really quickly, and the whole shtick is you get a word, password style. You need to get your team to guess it. And there's a big inflatable no stick. And the opposing team holds this big inflatable club basically over your head. And you have to give clues for your team to try to guess the word. And you can only use one syllable words. So you end up having to think very differently about how you want to describe something because you can only use one syllable words.
Or you'll get bopped.
Yeah, and getting bopped is half the fun. But yeah, playing with my folks has been especially fun. Watching my mom struggle with trying to figure out,
oh my
getting
gosh.
clubbed.
Yeah, and you sound like a caveman when you're given the clues. Like
you really do. And
light, round.
Yeah, and you get. I think if you're playing well, often you get in kind of a rhythm, and it does sound. I don't know if it's like beatboxing or what, but there's kind of a rhythm to it, and you can really get into it. So. Very, very simple game, very fast, easy to learn, and a lot of fun. And this one makes me feel like I'm being creative because I think differently about how I'm talking.
Cool. Yeah, it's super fun. That's a good one. I brought that last time I went camping too, and
that's a great camping game.
Yeah. It was super fun. That was Poetry for Neanderthals. So my number 5 is not out yet. But I played
it. Are you cheating?
I played a game I played a round of it at Gen Con. Okay. This is a game that's coming to Kickstarter this fall, and it's called Canvas Critters. And it's designed by Katia Hawatson and Mike Giuliano. It's published by 3WS Games. And let me tell you, so Katia is this I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she is a board game mosaic artist where she will take
I've seen
different colors.
Yeah, it's great.
She will make oftentimes board game related art by using all random board game components. Like she just has a pool of all these wooden meeples and animals and whatever, fruit, it doesn't matter, but she'll make mosaics out of it, and it's the coolest thing. So she co-designed this game, which is a party game where you are basically going to get a sack of all these different type of animal shaped meeples, different colors, and you're going to draw a card. The curator, you take turns being a curator. Cards have 5 different topics on them. Mm-hmm. Pick one. When we played, it was we picked music on the card, and we both had to, grab pieces from this pool and make something music related. And then basically the other players kind of secretly judge. And then at the end, you reveal to see who gets the most ribbons or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I took a bunch of giraffe heads and
okay.
and then some kind of orange arrowy piece, and I tried making a trumpet. I'm looking at the picture right now. Sorry you can't see it. But Mike, who was playing against me, made a drum set. He had a stool, he had cymbals and toms, and I had to put this game on the list because it definitely made me feel creative, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm like, that was such a brilliant idea for Katia to say, hey, how can I help other people have fun with what she does so well? And so this one is Canvas Critters, and it'll be on Kickstarter in fall 2024.
Oh, very cool. My number 4 is, I think, just coming out right now, called Wilmot's Warehouse. This is from CMYK.
It's on my list.
2024.
It's on my list too.
Yeah. This is by Ricky Haggett, Richard Hogg, and David King, and it plays 2 to 6 players. So I played this with the kids the other day, and I played it at a con before it was out. And first of all, I wanted to say this is a gorgeous game. This is from CMYK, and they really know how to do product design, and the manual is a thing of beauty and
awesome,
very funny as well. So if you read the description, you're going to think this is a memory game because, believe it or not, at the end of the game, the climax is where you actually flip over I think it's 49 tiles.
35.
35? Oh,
Yeah.
35. Yeah, 5 days by 7 tiles,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
35 tiles. So you'd think this would be like the worst kind of memory game, right? I'm terrible at memory games. Like I would run away from this. But it's really not a memory game, it's a storytelling game. You gradually put tiles on the warehouse, and the tiles have an abstract image on them. And as you place them, you and all the other players around the table, it's a cooperative game, are cooperatively coming up with a story, kind of building a memory mansion of sorts. You're providing context to why this tile is where it is, and you're hooking each next image to the previous ones in some kind of story. And by the time you're done, all the tiles are face down, and you will pretty confidently find customers for all the products in that warehouse by matching them to those tiles, by recalling collectively where everything was. And it's magical. It's this fun experience where you surprise yourself with what you can recall. And you take away this bizarre story that you've all concocted together. So I think it's like a magic trick in a box. And it definitely makes you feel creative because you have to come up with ridiculous reasons why this abstract shape should be next to this abstract shape. You know, the thing that looks like a dog dish
Yeah.
needs to be next to the thing that looks like a lipstick. You know,
100%. 100%. Yeah, this is higher up on my list if mine is ordered by creativity, I guess, a little bit. But I got to play a prototype of this with James Nathan last year at BGG Con, and then now I've since played it one other time last weekend, and both times you just feel like, how are we ever going to remember this, when you're starting? And the stories that you come up with by using, I mean, even in the rule book, they have examples of one particular tile that maybe looks like a bear claw, and they show you 3 different ways you can represent
it can look like
that.
A smokestack or
A factory. Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And so we had this crazy thing where the first tile of our last game looks like an egg yolk cut in half, or it could be like, I don't know, you could have said it was an orange or something, or some kind of citrus. But we went with this egg yolk theme. At some point, we get something that's an axe, and we were like, well, this is how we cut the egg. And then there was like a beaming light, and we were like, that's the yolk drizzling down. And
right.
just random things. Oh, this little water curly thing, that's the water we used to clean up. And then we had something that looked like a chemical. So we were like the chemicals with the water. And then there's one that looks like a Walmart logo. So we were like, we bought the chemicals at Walmart. There was a shark that bit somebody. They were bleeding.
Well, what's impressive is you can still remember this story, right? And I could tell you all about the assembly line plant that processed beaver tails and the QA process that involved a pig,
So great. It's so great. The other thing I really liked about it, and this just came out right after Gen Con, so it is out available now, I'm pretty sure, or shipping now.
Great.
Yeah. But the other thing I loved about it, you touched on the rule book being fantastic, and it just like sucks you into this theme of, hey, we're warehouse workers, and it's almost like a training manual. At the end of the game, when you have this 5 minutes to match customers to the tiles, and you're trying to do it as quickly as possible because that's going to tell you what your score is. And if you get any incorrect, that adds time to your score. And there's a table on the back of the rule book, I think. Yeah, I think it's on the back of the rule book.
Yep.
That has what my friend Tim calls a judgment table, like where it's like tiers of how you score. And each one has a QR code that you scan, that you can scan, and it takes you to a YouTube video of Matt from Shut Up and Sit Down, who's basically giving you like a performance review.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet. I should check it out.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please do. Please do. It had us like, we watched a couple of them just because we were so curious. Like, what if it took us 4 minutes? Like, what would it have been? But yeah, Wilmot's Warehouse, awesome stuff. I'm so glad you played it too and have it on your list because, I love it. And it totally makes me feel creative.
Cool.
Awesome. So I guess that was your number 4?
That's right. Yeah, in no particular order.
Cool. Okay, my number 4 is sort of a double. It is Too Many Bones, and I put a slash the new chip theory game, The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, because they share some DNA. So both of these games are from Chip Theory Games. Josh Carlson, Adam Carlson did Too Many Bones, and then Josh Carlson, Michael Gurnes, Logan Giannini, Ryan Howard, Salem Scott, and Josh Willigus
Wow.
all co-designed the
Mhm.
Elder Scrolls version, which is based on the video games.
Mhm.
And both of these games are cooperative adventure games, and they're played a little bit differently. But what I find that's creative about it is you get to. So if I'm playing Too Many Bones, I have a character who's kind of like specializes in something. Like if we take Stanza, for example, she's a musician, but you're going to be leveling up as you gain experience and go through these encounters. You're going to be leveling up different skill lines. For example, Stanza has a music therapist skill line that you can lean into, or there's a metalhead skill line. So it's like you get to kind of choose how you level up your characters. And in Elder Scrolls, there's even a little more variety because with Too Many Bones, if you pick a gear lock, that gear lock has a pool of 16 dice or whatever, 12 dice. And it's like, these are the skill line choices you have for them. You can be creative within that. But with Elder Scrolls, you get to kind of choose different skill lines for your character. You're picking a race for your character, a class. And so you have all this like freedom to kind of tailor your character as you see fit and have fun with, and that meets the puzzles that you're trying to solve.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just like I was trying to think of a game where you are kind of building a character or like developing a character, and I think this is probably my best example. And just I love Too Many Bones, and I'm just finished my first 3-session adventure of Elder Scrolls, and love.
Okay, cool. I haven't checked any of that stuff out, so that's all new
Oh
to me.
yeah. Oh, they're really good. And
Yeah.
talk about like there's a mix of like puzzly complexity to it, and like it's so creative, like from a design perspective, what they do with all these different battles on this like 4x4 grid to make everything feel like a different type of scenario. Like sometimes
Mhm.
you're doing something where, oh, there are walls, or this tile's gonna be on fire, and like it's really, really cool. And the characters are awesome. Like the gear locks are awesome. I'm not too familiar with the video game, but apparently it is like if you play Skyrim or any
It's a
Elder
thing,
Scrolls
huh?
stuff, it's
Yeah, I haven't
yeah.
played it. Yeah.
But yeah, so that is my number 4, Too Many Bones / The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era.
Okay, my number 3, I feel kind of meek talking about this. It may be kind of controversial because it's a little bit unexpected. This may be a game you've heard of.
Okay.
It came out in 1995. It's called CATAN. It's by Klaus Teuber. CATAN Studios in
Ooh.
Cosmos. 2 to 4 players.
I might have heard about this
Yeah,
game
yeah, yeah. I
before.
can tell you all about it. So I looked at my collection pretty intently, and I was just trying to think about like when do I really feel creative? And I got to say, so this game actually made me really fall in love again with the hobby, and I can't tell you how many games of this I played back in the day, but continue to play. I
Oh,
still play this game. I know a
that's
lot of
cool.
people like poo-poo it as like, oh, that was something from the 90s or the early 2000s, but now we still play it. And I think part of it is that I think because it scratches this itch for me where you get a hand of cards and you really do need to come up with a plan for what you're going to do in order to get how are you going to get to 10 points. And I think a good player is always thinking about, okay, I need to get to the 10 points. How am I going to get there? And I love negotiation. I love trading, and this is probably the safest place I can do that with the groups I'm in. So there's a certain line that I don't want to cross in negotiation games with my family. And this is
Yeah.
sort of like right at the perimeter of what's allowable. Yeah, I mean, like trying to broker 3-way trades, trying to figure out like how am I going to get this job done.
That's cool.
Yeah, it just had the game has just not lost its shine for me. There's all the cult of the new and everything, but it's fun to return to a classic. And I think the heart of Catan is trading, and kind of trying to broker one of those great trades is what makes me feel creative in it, and that's why I picked it for this list.
That is cool. I am one of the rare modern board gamers who has not played much Catan. It wasn't my gateway game. I think I've played it twice. And it's something like I would play. Like, I'm not snobby or anything like that. Like, I totally would play, and I appreciate it. I just haven't played it much, and it wasn't my gateway game or anything. So
Sure.
It was I should try this game that I've heard a lot about. But that's cool. That's interesting. That was a good pick.
Thanks.
My next game, number 3, is and I'll say game in air quotes for reasons, but this is a game called For the Queen, and it's a game that originally came out in 2019 from Evil Hat Productions, and then Darrington Press just released a 2024 English second edition of this game, which is designed by Alex Roberts. And she co-designed another game that I'm going to have to look up before we pivot off of this one, because it sounded really interesting and I wanted to share it, and I forgot to jot it down. But this is a card-based story building game for 2 to 6 players. The box is the size of a deck of cards. It's almost like a little bigger than an Oink Games box.
Okay.
And here's what we know. The land you live in has been at war for as long as any of you have been alive. The Queen has decided to undertake a long and perilous journey to broker an alliance with a distant power. The Queen has chosen you, and only you, to be her retinue because she knows, and accompany her on this journey. She chose you because she knows that you love her. So this game does not have a rule book. It has rules on cards, and it basically says, read the first card. Everybody take take the next card. So you're learning the rules just by flipping through these quick statements. It takes almost no time, and then you're in it. And what the game is you are reading prompts, and you're making a story. Oh, I should say, before you start going through the prompts and the questions, you pick a queen, and you can, if you want to, you can just make up your own, an image of a queen from scratch if you'd like. But the new version of this game has 25 different queens, and they are all so different. There's a birthday queen, a celestial queen, a CEO queen, a drag queen, a dream queen, a sea queen, a shadow queen, a solar queen, a scream queen. So they're all these different queens, and they all have this very distinct art that makes them feel different. So you can just pick one of those, and then you will also seed somewhere in the middle of the deck, or if you're wanting to play it for a shorter amount of time, you can put it wherever. There's a lot of flexibility, but there's one card that you'll kind of put into the deck, and when that comes up, that's the finale of the story. But otherwise, you're going around in a circle, and you're answering these questions to build a story. Why does the queen love you most? Or you did something that disappointed the queen. What was it? And why do you feel regret or whatever? And so you just keep going around, and there's a big deck of cards, and it's surprisingly so entertaining. And you have to kind of be creative with how you're saying things based on the queen you pick, based on what other people in your squad are kind of saying. And yeah, I just think it's so neat because it feels a little more like an activity, because there's not but
it's a bunch of storytelling prompts sort of, and constraints, and you have to kind of
exactly. And you're sitting there, so I'm you can take this on a road trip in the car, you could be on the beach, you can take it to a brewery. It's easy enough, and it just sparks creativity, and it like we found it really, really entertaining. And yeah. And I should mention that I did get this second version as a review copy, but I actually last year when we were in Bangkok, I was in a game store. I was trying to find things I had never seen before or couldn't get in the States. And this was before I even knew there was going to be a second edition. I bought the original version of it. And the art is different, but it's the same idea where you're just like going through these prompts and telling this story, and it's really, really cool, for like that kind of experience. Or if you're trying to get into dip your toes in the RPG world, I feel like, because it's like you're just making stuff up that kind of goes along with the story. And we got lots of laughs out of this one.
I think that's totally a game, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's on BGG, so it counts.
There you go. It counts. Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. That is For the Queen.
For the Queen. Very cool. My number 2 is, I think, a little bit in keeping with Poetry for Neanderthals, but it's got a different kind of like way of expressing.
Okay.
And this is a big family favorite too. Telestrations from 2009.
Nice.
I found it fascinating that the designer on BGG is uncredited. So
wow.
we don't. I guess it's probably because this is based on like a folk game, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But and my copy's from USAopoly, but there's just a load of publishers for this for 4 to 8 players. And the idea behind this one, if you haven't tried it before, is you get a word, and then you have to draw it on a whiteboard, and then you pass that to the right or to the left. I don't remember. Then the next person only looks at that picture and tries to guess what you had drawn and writes the word for that and passes it to the left, and so on. And so it's like the party game telephone, right, where you whisper something in someone's ear, maybe they mishear it, and then they whisper the next thing, and by the end you've got a totally different word. And this one, it's done with illustrations, and so you can see images get passed on to people. They have no idea what they are, so they take a best guess, and that it further devolves from there. And it's 100% not about the score at the end of the game. It's only about all the misinterpreted things and the crazy illustrations and guesses that you get. So this is a fun party game. It scales to like 8 players. I think there's even sets that go above that. And a favorite of my kids. And I like it because I get to draw. I get to use some of the skills I've got for like drawing icons, like trying to capture the essence of something with
cool.
very quickly, like metaphorically. So but then you get all the fun on the other side from the, if everybody played it perfectly, it would be no fun. And so most of the fun comes out of the accidents and the crazy artwork that comes out of it. So that's Telestrations.
Awesome. So I was thinking about Telestrations, and what I realized is I'm just like bad at drawing games.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if I feel creative or just dumb when I play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For some reason, they're not. I don't know. Yeah, it's not my jam. I have played it. I have played it a couple times, and it is hilarious, and it's a great party game.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just played Fake Artist.
Yeah.
For the first time, like a month ago.
I like Fake Artist, but it always swings one way, where we always guess who the artist is, I think, or
not in my case.
Yeah,
I'm undefeated as the Fake Artist. I've only played it once, and the funniest thing was I didn't know, like, I've never played it before, and I was the Fake Artist, and I had some rules questions, and then I was like, I realized I'm the one that everybody's trying to guess. Like, it was this whole weird thing. So because I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be drawing, and I was like, I get it. It was bumpy, but it was just like some people were suspicious. I think there were like 8 of us, and some people were suspicious, but then later other people's art was kind of worse, or their contributions. So yeah. I got off the hook, and nobody was able to figure out it was me.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, my number 2 is a game that I was into way before I knew about most modern board games. And it's because a musician friend of ours like introduced it to me, and I was just like, this game's so cool. And it's kind of funny because I didn't like say, oh, what other games are out there from this?
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I love this game. I want to play this game all the time. And the game is Dixit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So Dixit was originally released in 2008. Now there are like a bunch of different versions of it. I have the Dixit Odyssey standalone box,
Mm-hmm.
but then I got so many expansions for it. I stopped at some point. I think they're still making expansions.
So much content for that, yeah.
But it's really cool. It's designed by Jean-Louis Rubira, and it's published by Libelud. And there are lots of different artists, but I think the original one was Mary Carduet.
Yeah, I met her
really?
after it was up for the awards. Yeah, she was very nice.
Oh, that's awesome. But this is another like party game you can play with, I think, up to 12 players, if at least with my version, like the Odyssey version, you can. And each turn, somebody is the storyteller, and you have a hand of cards that have really kind of trippy, somewhat sometimes abstract looking art. And you have to come up with a clue, and then you're going to put your card face down, and then everybody else has to put in a card that matches that clue also. And you don't want to be too obvious with your clue, because if everybody else guesses which card is yours after you shuffle them and reveal them, then you don't get any points and they all get points. So you want at least one person to get it correct, and hopefully everybody else, miss. But meanwhile, the other people who are the passive players who are contributing cards, if people guess that theirs is mine, the active storyteller, they get points too. So you're incentivized to like put something that really meets the clues criteria as best as you can. And I just love it because you can make your clue whatever. It could be a sentence, it could be an emotion, it could be one word. And, we've used books, we've used movie titles. At some point, my friends and I made our own version of this game called Mix It, where we basically turned it into a music game where for every card you have to put on a song, and then everybody has to like put a card that like fits that song. But it's just like a ton of fun. They're like, the art is so wild, and you like look at these cards and you're like, oh, this reminds me of that moment in Lord of the Rings, so maybe I'll say it's Lord of the Rings, and see what people do. And then you see sometimes you thought your card was good. Oh yeah, that's the problem too. If nobody guesses yours, that's not good either. So it's kind of tricky, but it's fun. You can play with a lot of people. The cards are great to look at, and
if you like that style of play where it's like you try to get everybody to guess, but not as many people, but not everybody to guess, and being creative. Klaus Teuber has an old game called Barbarossa. And it actually won Game of the Year. You sculpt your clue, so you use like a clay, and you sculpt it, and when people get it right or they guess it, they actually stab little plastic arrows into your sculpture.
Whoa.
It's a very tactile kind of thing. The rules are a little overblown for what the game is, but it kind of scratches a similar itch.
Awesome. No, I've never heard of that one. All right, Matt, it's time. It's time for your number one game, not in
number
order.
one, again, not in any particular order. This one has got even bigger throwback. So CATAN was 95. This is 1993. Once Upon a Time by Richard Lambert, Andrew Rillstone, and James Wallace. This is from Atlas Games. Oh, really? Yeah, this is a classic.
I've heard of it.
It's been around forever. Yeah, 3 to 6 players. So again, another game with a lot of players, handles a lot of people. This is a storytelling game. When you're talking about what was the game with the queens?
For the Queen.
For the queens. So this is similar in that you've got a hand of cards, and they're basically like nouns and adjectives that you're dealt. And then you've got an ending, and someone starts just by saying "Once upon a time," and they just start telling a story.
Oh, wow.
And
cool.
as they say words that are in their hand, they can play them in. And I guess essentially it's a card shedding game. You're trying to get rid of all your cards.
Oh, cool.
But everybody else has to really pay attention, because if you say something that matches a concept on their cards, they can then interrupt. And I think there's other interrupt cards. It's been a little while since I played it, but it really does stand out, because obviously you have to be very created when you're playing this.
Yeah.
And it's a cooperative storytelling game. So in the sense that you're cooperatively generating the story, but
you're
it
trying to
is
run out of cards
yeah,
first.
you're trying to run out of cards, and it's against the spirit of the game to just kind of like slap your cards down really right in a row. No one will want to play with you. It's definitely not the vibe of the game. So but the cards end up being prompts for you, and that they make the story veer in ways that I guess Wilmot's Warehouse does in a certain kind of way. But
Awesome.
it's less weird than that. And then finally, when you have run out of cards, you can then you're allowed to then wrap it up with that ending, and the ending cards do kind of help steer the story a bit.
Cool.
But it doesn't take long to play. Really easy to learn. It's been in print forever. So that's Once Upon a Time.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've definitely heard that title, and maybe I can even slightly picture what the box looks like, but I've never tried it. And I'm definitely like really getting into these games where you're kind of telling stories, and that's why I'm enjoying a lot of adventure games as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So I will quickly mention two other ones, because remember I told you the designer Alex Roberts, who created For the Queen, she has another game that she's co-designed that was, I guess, out in 2023 called Till the Last Grasp. Oh, Gasp. Till the Last Gasp. And the tag says, dramatic storytelling game of duels. Fight till the last gasp. And it's a 2-player dramatic storytelling game of duels and drama. And I was like looking at the description. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to like check this one out too. And I think there are like different scenarios that you play through, and you're like fighting, but also like storytelling. So I was like, that sounds really intriguing. And then the other game I wanted to mention is an old Button Shy game that I've never played, but my friend Tim just told me about. And it was like so unique that I wanted to mention it. It's called I Guess This Is It. And it's a 2-player game about saying goodbye. And
oh, really?
Yeah, you work together and try to say as much as you can before leaving, but you're trying not to hurt each other's feelings. And there are, I guess, mechanics that kind of emulate emotions of the moment and all sorts of things. And it's like a Button Shy wallet game. I think it's out of print, unfortunately, but it sounds really like fascinating the way he was kind of describing that one too.
Cool. I have one honorary mention. I'm only honorary mentioning it because I haven't played it, but it looked really fascinating. That's 1,000-Year-Old Vampire by Tim Hutchings, which is a solitaire RPG journaling game. I bought this as a gift for a friend, and I think she really liked it. The premise just seems so crazy in that you get these prompts and you're writing in your journal as this vampire who is continually forgetting things. And I think it's like this meditation on memory and forgetting and that sort of thing. So the artwork in it is also really extraordinary. So I check that out if you're looking for a journaling type game or a solitaire RPG.
Yeah, and I've heard of this because I'm pretty sure Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire had a video on this, and I remember hearing something about this, but I forgot all about it. Was it 1,000-Year-Old Vampire?
1,000-Year-Old Vampire, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me and picking such a fun topic. It was definitely like thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's fun to think about this sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. And it's just cool to also have insight on, I've played a ton of your games. I'm sure lots of people have. And it's cool to know like what games you enjoy and like stuff that you've played. So it's just cool to chat games with you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'll catch you at Essen.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. I'll see you then. Thank you again. You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at BoardGameGeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@BoardGameGeek.com. Thanks for listening.